let's go to that vote of the UN overnight. The UK, like Australia, abstained. Yet when I look at the new Foreign Minister David Lammy's recent media focus, I mean, he's put up bisexual pride flags outside the Foreign Office. He gave a great big speech on climate change. Now, given Ukraine, given China, given all the other issues that are on his plate and the growing cultural divisions in the British community, we saw that play out in riots, surely his focus should be elsewhere.
He's massively out of touch with what normal people in Britain think. He is part of an elite political class that is obsessed with climate change. They don't like Israel. They're pro-Palestinian. They are anti the instincts, the patriotism of normal British people. And he is governing in the interests of that group of people. It's the lawyers in London. It's the people working in the big corporates. It's the civil servants and the bureaucrats. And most people in Britain do not agree with these policies. And this is why this government is already very unpopular. You know, Keir Starmer's ratings have plummeted because they're seen as hypocrites, but they're also seen as representing a very narrow group of people who live in the big cities, who work for the public sector. They don't represent normal people across Britain who back Israel, who see China as a threat and want a strong foreign policy from Britain.
Well, key in all of this, you know, the disenfranchisement of ordinary people is the waves and waves of illegal migration hitting the UK. We watch it in Australia. We know it can be stopped. But I get the sense that Britain doesn't think it can get control of its borders again. I mean, can it get its borders back under control?
We can, and we've seen what Australia did. I met Tony Abbott on several occasions talking about his successful policies to get control of immigration in Australia. But there is not the political will to do it in Britain, because we will have to dismantle a lot of our laws, like the Human Rights Act that Tony Blair brought in and Keir Starmer supports. We'll have to dismantle those laws that essentially give more rights to people who are entering our country than people who are living in our country. And the problem is that the political class do not want to acknowledge how bad things are. And ordinary people across Britain see how bad things are. They can see that we don't have control of the boats. They can see that the borders in Britain are porous. But it will take a huge push to actually change that human rights legislation that has now been in since the 1990s. And that is what we need to do. And I think pressure in Britain is building for that. You'll have seen at the election, Nigel Farage and Reform got a large vote because people are frustrated. But the message has still not hit home, and our politicians aren't prepared to do what it takes.
Just quickly, I watched your Twitter feed during the Olympics. You're pretty outspoken about the right of women to compete and only compete against biological women. Why on earth has the scientific fact of our biology become collateral damage in the so-called diversity push?
Well, I think it's an attack on Western civilization. And it's an attack on the truth and Enlightenment values. We all know what a man is and what a woman is. And essentially people, in order to climb up the social ladder, in order to be acceptable in society, people are telling untruths about biology. And that has now had horrific effects. In sport, the boxer that was knocked out by a man in the boxing ring. Who'd have thought that our modern society would be allowing violence against women by men to be sanctioned in a public space? We have situations in prison where women are being raped by male prisoners who claim that they are women. And this ludicrous situation has been brought about because of an attack on truth, on biology, on the core values that we believe in society. And I do believe, you know, it's part of an overall effort to delegitimise our very societies and our very civilization. And it's why I believe so passionately we have to fight back against it. And people are also trying to undermine our history. They're trying to undermine our belief in our countries and say that somehow countries like Britain or America or Australia have things to be ashamed of. I think we're fantastic countries and we should be proud of what we achieve. But it's all part of the same agenda to undermine the West. And this is what my book, 10 Years to Save the West, is about. Because until Conservatives really start fighting back against this and are prepared to call these things out and take a stand, we are just going to see the left become more and more successful in pursuing this, these absolutely nutty policies. They're nutty.